Hi guys, thanks so much for stopping by. So today I will be talking about a orchid plant food bloom booster, and this is what I have been using for years. And so I can actually give you a very great review in this because it's not just 1 year or 2 years, it's like 10 years worth of information and experience. Okay. This is called the Better Grow Orchid Better Bloom. This is different from the Orchid Plus. That was more of like an all-purpose fertilizer in a sense for orchids essentially. It does tell you which orchids are great with it. So this it says you there are 2 ways to feed. It's either you do the monthly and you do it, feed once a month when watering using 1 teaspoon per gallon of water. And the other way is thoroughly soak foliage and root system. But, I mean, I'm sorry. I meant that was step 1 and step 2. I'm sorry, I'm dyslexic, plus I endured multiple head traumas, so sometimes my words and what I'm trying to say might not convey correctly than what I would prefer. So that's just what they would suggest, and this does not have any urea. Urea is dangerous to your orchids because it can kill your orchids. So just make sure that when you fertilize your orchids, it actually is for orchids. Make sure of that. So what I do is, where is that? Okay. I remember there was somewhere here that it said how much to use when you're doing it, when you're using this more frequently than that, but I can't seem to find it. But anyway, it says here, this is an Orchid Plus bloom fertilizer, contains high content of phosphorus and is used to encourage flowering, enhance bloom color, and maximize bloom size. Provides the precise mix of ingredients and nutrients your orchids need to produce beautiful, vibrant, and long-lasting blooms. No urea and nitrogen, professionally formulated fertilizer. I forgot where it was. Yeah. So what I do is, because my container is 1.5 gallons, so what I use is 1.5 teaspoon and not 1 teaspoon. This does come with a spoon, a measuring spoon with it. This is what the spoon looks like, and it does have measurements in here. The top is like if you reach this high, it's 1 tablespoon. There is a line in the middle that says 5 ml or 1 teaspoon. Because I use 1.5 teaspoon, I just use my typical kitchen measuring spoon, and I just do 1 1/2 teaspoon or 1/2 tablespoon, because it's 3 teaspoons per tablespoon. So if you do 1/2 tablespoon, it's basically the same as 1 1/2 teaspoon. Just in case your 1 1/2 teaspoon is like lost or dirty or something and you have something else, you can use that one. I use this together with the Orchid Plus. I also use the Lechuza self-watering system. I have never owned an orchid that typically how a lot of people who do not live in the tropics care. So if you don't live in the tropics and you're one of those people that live in the Midwest or in a dry area, a lot of times people would water their orchids once a week and kind of let it dry out and then put it back in the cute little planter they have. I don't do that. My husband's grandmother did that, and my husband was, when he purchased the first orchids from me, he also purchased an orchid for himself, and it was like, growing together. And what he noticed was my blooms were longer. My blooms were also reoccurring. Like, I had more flowers. My flowers also lasted longer. And my stalks rebloomed. His never did. And what he always used to do as well was he would cut the stalk after the flowers had bloomed. And he said that was what his mom and his grandmother always did. I am always the type of person that, like, I will let the plant naturally progress its life stage. So I didn't really know anything, and I didn't really cut the stalks. And in turn, it rebloomed. So ever since that happened, and I was just trying out a planter system. It was my first time to own my own plant, as well as an orchid, which is not really your very easy plant to grow. It's not like a pothos or a snake plant or anything like that. So it's a lot more intricate there in that kind of setting. But so I had the lechuza, and I put my orchids in there, and it really worked. My husband was worried initially because, from his own experience and knowledge, you want to air out the roots so they don't rot. But we did check the root system, right, like a week or so or a month or so, like the longer we had it, and make sure it wasn't like having flowers. Like, we were very careful. We would check the roots, or he would check the roots. And he was always shocked. He was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that the roots are doing well. They're not rotting at all. So after that, I bought more of the planter. And because I bought more of the planter, I also bought more orchids. All those orchids died. It wasn't because of the lechuza or how I was watering. It was because of the environmental shock. It happened. We moved 2 more times after that, and the apartment we lived at didn't really have a lot of light. I also didn't think of getting plant lights. I really didn't know a lot about plants at the time, so they just slowly really died, which is really unfortunate. But it had nothing to do with the planter, the watering, or anything like that, or even the fertilizer. It just didn't have any light at all. So, if you guys are interested in the self-watering system, from what I've gathered, you can get a cheaper one, but a lot of people have made complaints and saying that the materials aren't very good, and you're kind of overpaying for it, and it doesn't work right. I've always used lechuza, and where you can get that will be down below. I'll try to incorporate that down below as much as possible. But that is the only planter I use for all my orchids. So every time I have watered them, because you don't water them very frequently, you don't water them every week or every 2 weeks or anything like that, the lechuza self-watering system actually has enough water in there that will last you like a month or so, depending on how much your plant really does ingest the water. And I use this every single time. Some people want to switch it out. Some people don't want to put this every single time they water their orchid. What they typically want to do is, when their orchids are blooming, they switch to this one instead of the all-purpose. I've never tried that before. These are not very expensive, and a little bit goes a long way, especially in the way I'm watering my orchids, because I don't water them every week. So it just kind of sits in the reservoir, and because it sits in the reservoir, the condensation just gets absorbed with through time and how much each plant really needs. So you have to really think that each plant is very unique and different in their own way. Some of them are going to digest and ingest more of the nutrients and the water, and some are not going to do that. So I love that system. And I've been successful with that system. I've never really had an issue with it. I think the only issue might be like if they are very, very young and you're getting a super young or a super small orchid and the roots are like only this tall, that might rise a little bit of an issue. So what you can just do is just water it and then maybe leave it a certain amount, and then after a while you dump all the water from there, and you let it dry for 7 days, and then you water it again. So maybe not have to wait till it goes all the way down before you, if you want to just dump it, maybe just keep it in there for like 2 weeks or 3 weeks, depending on how much you really want to push your orchid. I don't really do that. I've never done that before, but my husband has from his orchids, because he also had like a smaller orchid, and there really wasn't much of a difference between mine and his. So you don't really need to do that, but if it makes you feel better, makes you feel more comfortable, it makes you feel like your plant isn't really being derived, then you can do that as well. I don't have any complaints to this aside from it's harder to find in stores. I do get this online, and again, everything is going to be linked down below. All my orchids are really, like, I do have a lot of flowers. I do get a lot of flowers, and they do last quite a bit. All my orchids now, only 2 of them have given me flowers. I bought them and they've already bloomed. All of them were already opened. So, when I had them, they probably stayed opened after I gave them this for almost a month, if not a month. I have I have 7 orchids, and they're a mix of Phalaenopsis and Cattleya. And I only have 2 Phalaenopsis, and those were the ones that bloomed. And so far, all the stalks are still okay, and they're still very green, and they're starting to bud now, and the buds are actually starting to grow. I do really encourage anyone who loves orchids and they want their orchids to bloom better, to grow better, to have better like lifespan on their flowers, to have longer blooms, to have more buds, to have bigger size flowers. From my experience, let's just say your flower is this size. After it all wilts and it grows again, from using this product, from what I've noticed, it actually grows a little bit bigger. And like, it won't grow from this to this, okay? It will grow from, if it was from this, it will grow like this next time it blooms. And then the next time it produces buds again, it will like be this big. Like, very small. However, bigger is bigger. Like, you can't complain with that. My husband was also surprised because, just so you know, I am not like an orchid expert. I love orchids, but I've only grown it one way. So I can't really consider myself as an orchid expert. I can only say that I know how to grow orchids one specific way, and that is with a self-watering system by Lechuza. And I also use Better Grow Orchid Plus as well as the Bloom Booster. Every single time they get any kind of watering or any kind of nutrient that they are ingesting, it has this and the Orchid Plus. So that's the only thing that I've ever used, and it has worked for me so far. If your orchids are not going to be as good as that, or it's not producing as many flowers, so why don't you just give that a shot? Because it is so rewarding when your orchids start to bloom and you have, instead of 5 flowers, you probably have like 15. That's what happened. Like, we were comparing, my husband did it the very typical grower orchid, and he was also using the same items, but it just had a different effect. And also, he tried to only use the Orchid Plus without the Bloom Booster until there was already buds. And what we both noticed is that if you don't incorporate this every single time you do water, you don't really get as many buds as you would if you incorporate this with every time you do water. Is this a necessity in regards to having an orchid and keeping it healthy and growing? No. In my life, when I'm growing orchids, this is a necessity. I always have this particular product. And a little bit goes a long way. And this can last you for a really long time. It doesn't have a weird smell. It's the fertilizer. I'm going to show you guys. The fertilizer is blue, and that is water soluble. Again, when it's something like that, you really want to thoroughly mix it. A lot of companies sometimes will just say, oh, no need to stir, no need to wait for it to dissolve. Yes, you do. Every single time. You don't want it to be like the bottom part of your container will have the granules that it didn't dissolve, and then the top part of it would be kind of more of the watered down. It would be uneven, so I wouldn't really suggest that. If there is something that I really didn't cover, let me know down below. We have also used this with the type of the dendrodium, and the one that starts with an O, I forgot what it's called. We also have somewhat of a mystery orchid that I purchased for my husband. It's really huge. It has a stalk still up. It just doesn't have any buds right now, so we're both just like waiting. We don't even know what the flowers look like, what the shape, the color, the pattern, or the size. We don't know any of that. But that was the one he wanted. It was like the biggest orchid in like my favorite nursery in their area. It was the biggest. It was what he picked. To him, it had the combination of the most roots as well as the most leaves. So that's why he picked it. It was quite expensive, but I believe when it does start to have the flowers, then it's really just beautiful. I know I'm just kind of chit-chatting about it. And also, side note, we went to like that favorite nursery. It's kind of like a ways away from us, like 25 miles from us, but it's still worth it to go. So we went there, and there was a shelf, like three layers, a shelving unit of just orchids on clearance. But these were orchids that are like, they were $9, like $9.92, $9.98. There's like weird numbers on it. The thing is, I didn't know how to care for them, and I don't know if I have enough like self-watering planters for them, so I really need to purchase those first before I purchase the orchids. And at that moment, I was really eyeing more of the Thanksgiving cacti that they had. So I wasn't really planning on like getting a super haul and getting a lot of orchids where I don't really have a home for them to put. I don't even have a planter for them. So that was kind of unfortunate, but I don't know, maybe another time I'll do that. Again, if there's something that I missed, if you have other questions, comments, suggestions, let me know down below. If everything that I'm doing, what the skincare I'm currently using, just because some people do get curious about that. And of course, the makeup that I'm using today will be down below. Where to get this, the lechuza, and anything else that I use with orchids, it will be linked down below as well. So if you are curious where to get it, and the cheapest it would get it, and the best way to get it, or more information, it will be down below as well. So do check those out. I hope you enjoyed my video, that you're going to give it a thumbs up. And of course, hit the subscribe button and the bell so you're notified every single time I do upload a new video. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you guys again next time. Bye.